Hey, it's Rob, and welcome to Axel's Garage. Today we are using our new wireless microphone, and I'll put a link right up here, and that link will let you know what this mic is, if you like it. This is the first regular video. We did do a little unboxing review with it, but this is our first regular video out in the breeze to see how it handles wind. I don't have the wind sock on it. I just have the regular foam pad on it right now. Anyway, what we are out here today with Cosmo, and this is our 2000 Jeep Cherokee. It's an XJ, and I'm doing a video. I may have already done it, or you may have seen it already, or it might yet to be published. Who knows where this all fits in the grand scheme of things. And we're getting some good breeze now, which is nice because we get to test the mic. Anyway, it's a 2000 Jeep Cherokee XJ. It's pretty much untouched, and when we went to look at it initially before we bought it, it seemed to sit fairly level. And I did notice the guy had a blanket over the back cargo area, and it was filled with tools, and I really didn't pay much attention to how much weight he might have had in it. When I crawled underneath it, I was really looking for rust. I wasn't looking for much of anything else besides rust and obvious excessive leaks. So I didn't notice anything funny going on. We got it home, got it off the trailer. Of course, it was empty, and my youngest son, the little big dummy, he said, it kind of looks like it's up high in the back. And I looked at it, and it does have a decent rake to it. And when you get in it and drive, you actually see over the hood an awful lot, like you're noticing the rake while you're sitting in the driver's seat. So I thought it was a little odd, and I'm like, I really wanted to start with something even. I got a plane flying overhead right now. So this video will be a real good test for the mic. Anyway, looking at it, it definitely was higher in the back. So I went in the back and looked at the springs, and they were actually in really nice shape. Like the leaves weren't all rusted and corroded like you would think on a 20-year-old New York vehicle that's been on Long Island its entire life. And I look at it, and sure enough, there are part number labels on the springs. So I took a quick picture of it, went in the house, Googled it up, and it turns out it's a Dorman replacement spring on both sides. Looks like brand new shackles as well, and they look like factory style or factory length shackles. And the part number is for Dorman replacement heavy duty leaf springs. So the leaf springs were replaced. He neglected this. He was pretty good with telling me everything that was done to it, but the leaf springs were replaced. They were probably sagging over the years. He did load it up with tools because he was using it to go back and forth to work, and he needed to bring a decent amount of tools. So I guess over the years the springs either sagged, or he needed the heavy duty extra oomph of newer springs to keep it going level down the road, and that's why it looked level when we first looked at it. But now it looks a little jacked up, and to me it looks a little funny. And I'm going to grab the camera off the tripod, and I'm going to show you what that rake actually looks like. We got it parked on fairly level ground, but level enough to do what we're going to do today. Now I'm trying to figure out how much we would have to make it level. So taking these base measurements, it's really tough because you really need to know at the spring where you are and at the spring where you are in order to really know whether is it dropping an inch, is it dropping 2 inches, so on and so forth. So I'm gonna try to take a couple of sets of measurements and get a real good idea on what's going on. What I'm gonna do is, you have the pinch weld going across the bottom just under the rocker panel. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure from that little cutout in the pinch weld where the factory jack would go. I'm going to use that as my baseline for the front and rear measurement, and because I have that same cut here as I do here, and all things being equal, hopefully those are going to be in the same spot. So on this front one, I am at 16 inches to the top of the cutout for the pinch weld. And then moving to the rear one, I'm at exactly 17 inches. So I got an inch from those cutouts in the pinch weld front to rear. Remember, that's just to the front section, front door, and on this one it's to about the middle of the rear door. So now just to take another set, this vehicle being a unibody doesn't have a frame, but it does have what we can call frame rails, which are the part of the unibody construction which carries the load similar to how a frame would carry the load. And I'm going to go to the rearmost part of that frame that we're going to call it, right around where the leaf spring bolts up. And on that frame rail, not on the leaf spring shackle, but on that frame rail, I'm going to measure to the bottom of what we're calling the frame, and I'm getting 14.25 in the rear section, and that's before that rail actually starts to go up. So it's where the leaf spring is mounting, and then in the front, I'm going to go right to before where the lower control arm rear mount mounts, and that's before that frame that we're calling it a frame starts to go up. Now listen, don't beat me up in the comments. I know it's not a frame, okay? And I am getting 12.25 inches. So I'm getting a 2-inch difference along the frame and a 1-inch difference along the body. Again, I know it's not a frame. So now if we only measured body, we would say that it has to come up 1 inch in the front and it will be level. But then we measure the frame part of the unibody and it's 2 inches. So I don't know what to do now. You know, a 2-inch spacer, it could put it too high, and then a 1-inch spacer, it still could be too low. What we're trying to do, the objective for this is just to level it out. So the issue is that we're measuring here, pretty much in the same location here, maybe a little bit farther forward when we're measuring the bottom of the frame or the unibody frame. The problem is we need the measurement really to be here, and doesn't appear to be a constant for that, same as here. We really want the measurement here, and we're measuring in the neighborhood of around here. So as geometry works, if this is going down in this direction, that line might actually be lower as we get closer to where the coil spring actually mounts. And the same thing in the back. As it's coming up in the back, it might actually be more when we get to there. So I was trying to brainstorm to think, because I'd really like to do it once and get the only has to come apart once, which it might not happen, but we want to make at least a good effort to just put a few minutes in to getting it. And what our thought process was to lift the front of the vehicle evenly with a jack, just lifting it above the suspension and seeing how far we have to go up to get it to look level, and then see what our look level measurements are. Maybe our measurements are still going to be different front to rear, but the vehicle looks level, which is what we're trying to accomplish, is that it just looks funny right now, and we were trying to level out the way the vehicle looks. So I had an idea. So here's my idea. We still have those brackets on the front of the Jeep from when we took the brush guard off in a previous video, or maybe not in a video yet, but we used to have a brush guard on here. It came with the vehicle and we took it off. But the lower brackets require a little more getting under it, and we just haven't had a chance to do it. So while we have those lower brackets there, I can use those lower brackets to lift that front of the vehicle up to see where our level point is and take some measurements there. So what I'm thinking is, right now, I have 4x4 just touching the brackets, so it's not actually lifting the vehicle. This is how the vehicle sits normally. And I take a measurement to the bottom of the 4x4 to know how much we're moving that 4x4 of the vehicle above the suspension. So trying to keep it constant, measuring just under the bracket here for the brush guard to the bottom of the 4x4, I have 12 inches. So that's 12, and now we can start to jack it up a little bit. All right, now I just brought the front up a couple of pumps. Let's see how far up we went. We went to 13.5, which is higher than I wanted to go. All right, so I'm at about 13 and a 16th. I'll call that 13, and let me take a look at how I am on the side. All right, so now looking back on the side, still see a little bit of a rake. I went up an inch in the front. Let's see what this correlates to here. Right here. So we went up an inch in the front, and that actually only brought us up a ½ inch here. And over here, we are at the same measurement, so we didn't change anything here, but we only went up a ½ inch where we want to be. So, looking at where we're measuring from is about, give or take, 4 feet 4 inches, right, from where we're measuring from there to there. So if we split that distance in half, that's going to be about 2 feet 2 inches, which puts us right here, which is, and it just worked out. I didn't plan this, that worked out. It puts us right into the area where the coil spring is. So an inch in the front gave us a ½ inch there, which, if the math works, it's going to be 3/4 of an inch here. So if we put 3/4 of an inch of a spacer in here, this is what we would be. And I think we're still a little too raked. So that would be a 3/4 inch spacer. All right, now if I come up front again, I'm at 13 right now. So if I bring it up a ½ inch, which is just a hair more, right there, it looks to be sitting at a ½ inch. So now I brought it up in the front and an inch and a half right here. An inch right here. So now I'm up 3/4 of an inch there and an inch and a half in the front. So 3/4, inch and a half. So what would be here? Inch and a quarter or so. 3/4 and a quarter is an inch. Inch and a quarter minus inch and a half minus a quarter. So we're between an inch and a quarter, an inch and an inch and a quarter. We're actually getting much better. We almost look completely level. Have to go up just a hair more. So if I bring this up to 13 3/4, that's 13 3/4. How do we look? I'm thinking that looks pretty good. It looks like it's still got a little bit of a forward rake, but I think that looks good. So we're at 13 3/4 in the front, and we're dead on at 17 here. 17 dead on. Back here, 17 and an eighth. All right, so with 13 3/4 here and 17 here, that gives us the spot where we want to be. All right, so way too many measurements that are jumping around in my head, but in going up and we were at 3/4 in the middle. If we took this distance, the difference from here to here, okay, that it went up, split it in half, put us in this range here. So initially that was like an inch and an eighth, and then we came up another half inch or another quarter inch, and that put us an inch and a quarter here. So to get it to sit like this, we need to bring this up an inch and a quarter. All right, so now we have to find the appropriate spring spacer to get us here. Now, yes, this is a Band-Aid fix. This isn't permanent. We don't know where we're going with this project yet. So a 2.5 to 3 inch lift kit is definitely on the short list of things we might want to do. But in the meantime, we're not worrying about that right now. It's mid to late October. We're definitely not doing a lift anytime before the spring. So this is going to get us in the ballpark for using the vehicle for the winter. Both of the twins, both of them, Emily and Steven, are still in driver's ed. They're still learning. They haven't taken their road test. This is going to be their road test vehicle, so we don't want to make it anything crazy or difficult for them. But we want to level it out, make it look halfway decent, make it ride halfway decent, where it doesn't feel like you're leaning forward. Because right now it does feel like you're pitched forward when you drive. But this is going to get us in that ballpark, I believe. So just for shits and giggles, I am going to go through the center line of the spindle, or as close to it as I can, to get to the top of the fender. And it looks like I'm at 31 and 9/16. 31 and 9/16 to the bottom of the flare. And now letting it down all the way was 31 and 9/16, right? Now letting it down all the way, I am at 30 and 3/4. 9/16 to 3/4. So I'm at a half and then a quarter, so that's 3/4. And I was at 9/16. So that math doesn't add up. It would appear that we need an 1.25 inch spacer. So what did I do? Well, I went online, tried to look for coil spring spacers. So most of them are big. They're 1.75 inch. There's 2 inch, there's 3, there's 2.5, there's 3.5. There's a lot of bigger ones, not a lot of smaller ones. So what they sell is the isolator, which is already in here. So they sell a new isolator, and these have the factory original isolators, which are probably worn out, but like I said, I'm trying to do this on the cheap because a lift kit could be planned. And then they have 3/4 inch spacers. Well, I click on the 3/4 inch spacers because I know that they're going to get me in the ballpark, or maybe doubling them can bring me to 1.5 inch, which is a little too much. So I looked at those 3/4 inch spacers, and one of them just says lifts your vehicle 3/4 inch. But then when you look at the specifications, it said lift amount, it says 1 inch, but the booklets say 3/4 inch. So I did a little deeper, and I found 3 brands that all sell a 3/4 inch spacer. One of them, it just says 3/4 inch spacer. There's no specifications, there's no additional information, there's no reviews or comments to look at to see what they actually did for people. The second brand says 3/4 inch spacer, and then it says lift amount on its specifications is 1 inch. Again, not too good at information and a little conflicting. And now we got a helicopter going by, so we really are testing this today. Now, the third brand actually says 3/4 inch spacer, and then when you look at it, it says that the spacer itself is 1 inch, and if you use it with the factory isolator together, that you're going to get a total of 1.25 inch amount of lift. So that's the one that we're probably going to go with. I'm going to do a little more Googling, see if we could find a 1-inch spacer, because I think a spacer that actually measures out to 1 inch plus the isolator is probably going to give me that 1.25 inches. I don't think that isolator is 1.5 inches, is a 1/2 inch. I think it's less than a half. It might be 3/8 or so. So we're going to do a little bit of research. We're going to get one ordered up and delivered. And video about leveling this. I'm going to show you the one I picked, why I picked it. We're going to put it in, and we're going to see if we got the leveling that we wanted, or we're going to have to order something else and do the job twice. Hopefully not, because we don't want to spend much on this, because this is a temporary fix, but who knows, you know, sometimes temporary becomes permanent. But this is how we figured it out. This is how we measured it, remembering a little bit of geometry from where you measure to the front of the vehicle to where the actual space is going to go. Because they're angled measurements, you got to realize that as you continue to where you measure along that plane, that it's either going to go up or down. Another helicopter. What's going on today? We do have the railroad about 1/4 mile down that way, and the flight path for helicopters is along the railroad, and that helicopter is going the wrong way. That's got to be a news helicopter circling around from something. That's not a normal east-west transport helicopter that we see. Yeah, that's a news helicopter doing a circling. So something must be going on. Anyway, that's all we got today from Axel's Garage. Working on Cosmo, the 2000 Jeep Cherokee. What I've come to learn, you're supposed to call it an XJ. I don't know. Hope you liked the video. Comment down below. Let us know how you've made out. Holy cow, really? Maybe he's checking me out. Comment down below. Let us know what you've come up with leveling these things out, or using spacer blocks for leveling. Not really for lift. I'm not talking about lift stuff here. We're talking about just leveling it out. Comment down below. Let us know what you think. And as always, thanks for watching.